inside the off stump. Oh, he's caught it! I don't believe it! Tom Kohler-Cadmore has caught the most magnificent catch. That short third man is the end of Daniel Sams, and Somerset have won the Vitality Blast 2023. They've bowled Essex out for 131.
Hello there, this is Always Look on the Bright Side of Life, the Somerset Cricket Podcast. My name's Ian Shepherd. Joining me this evening, I've got President of the club for at least one more day, with it being the AGM tomorrow night, which, just to clarify, will be the 11th of June. Peter Wanless. Peter, how's everything with yourself? Good. How's the house move going? Are you nearly done that? Oh, no.
Yes, no. It's progressing, and indeed I can talk about it publicly because I've had a big conversation with Wanless Junior about it, and you probably heard the explosion in Taunton. Never mind down the road from here, but we're coming to terms with it, and I hope for later in the season not to be doing this endless shuttling up and down the A303, which I'm completely fed up with.
Excellent stuff. Well, I gather Peter will be distributing invites to his housewarming party at the next T20 game. So just grab one and it should be a good night. Ben, I saw you posted. Well, first of all, how are you?
I'm well, thanks, Chef. How are you?
Good. I did see you posted an Instagram story or something about county cricket life, getting back into the Cooper Associates County Ground at about 3 o'clock in the morning with the women's ODI the next day. How did that all go?
Oh yeah, God, yeah. It was a late one getting back from Hove. We had a few issues on the road, so it was a sort of a 4 a.m. arrive and 8 o'clock back in for the women's ODI. But it went. It was okay. I managed to nap during the rain break, so all's well that ends well.
Brilliant. So, well, shall we start then before that mammoth journey home? Last Friday night, the only men's game we've had since we recorded last week. And true to form, Somerset bowling first, doing a sterling job keeping the opposition down to a manageable score, and then knocking them off with Tom Abel unbeaten with relative ease. Should be quite easy this week. I mean, is there anything Tom Kohler-Cadmore arrived this season. I thought he was absolutely brutal on Friday night. Should we start with that? It's just such a joy to have a player, I think, who just goes out and plays with such unbridled freedom. We talked about it sort of last week with Shane and Tom Lammerby sort of finding a bit of freedom in the T20s. But doesn't TKC go out there and just play with such absolute freedom and gusto? It's a joy to watch.
It didn't feel quite so easy, I would say, on the night. The Sussex lot felt that bowling was their strong suit, and they felt that bowling was our strong suit. And it because we'd been so brilliant in the first two games against Surrey and against Essex, it felt a little bit messy because it was striking how few wides we'd bowled in the first couple of games, and we conceded 20 extras, and if we hadn't conceded those extras, then absolutely it would have looked like a minuscule score, and I think we'd have gone out there and bashed it all over the place with that and had a lot of confidence. But I couldn't help feeling that despite the fielding being absolutely electric, it was a little bit untidy. But then, sure enough, TKC comes out and with speed, and if bowling is Sussex's strong suit, then to take the game to Ollie Robinson and smash him out of the attack, I mean, it just, they had nowhere to go once he looked like an expensive option. If someone managed to do that to Craigo or to Matt Henry, then maybe we might lose our nerve, but it hasn't happened yet. And so, that's how I saw it. At half time, I think we probably were the favourites, but it didn't feel quite so convincing as the first two games, because partly we've been spoiled with how incredible we'd performed both bowling and in the field in those first two games. So that was my feeling, really.
I rewatched it. I was out and about on Friday night, but it did really feel to me like John Simpson was that key wicket. Once when he was in, you felt like, 200 plus is potentially on the cards here. But again, just like we did up at Chelmsford, that the back end of that innings just belonged to Somerset's bowlers. And Ben, I mean, 180 turned it, well, potentially 180, 190, 200 turned it to 166. Ho's not the biggest ground, and another nice, comfortable run chase.
Yeah, I mean, Sussex played at home a couple of days later and got 190 on it, and I think everyone in the press box was expecting a winning score to be about that 180, 190 sort of. So there was the ground, and I think that I think coming back to the word wickets is quite an important one. Somerset had a fantastic trait in the 2023 blast of bowling sides out and taking continuous wickets. And I think that, what you've seen in the first three games is that trait almost, not that it completely vanished last year, but it's returned in abundance, really, that ability to take wickets all the way through. Obviously partnerships are going to happen with good sides. Sussex are a good side, and they did incredibly well last year. So, but to be able to break that partnership, Matt Henry bowling in the middle overs, getting rid of Allsop, and he was looking dangerous. Then they get rid of Simpson, and then that wicket taking ability from even Ben Green and alike. It really does go to show that. I know it's a really obvious thing to say, but taking wickets in T20 cricket you tend to win more games than you don't if you continue to strike when right the way through the 20 overs. And Somerset won the power plays as if they won every power play so far this season. So
6 out of 6.
Those are huge when you're facing a short boundary. If you can take wickets during a power play and don't get hit out of that side of the ground too often, it really gives you that benefit of the probably the 30-40 runs that were the difference between the sides.
I thought Meredith, you just talking about wicket taking, I thought Meredith had a bit of an off night last night, but he still picked up 2 important wickets, getting, I keep want to call it Harrison Ford. You always
Ward.
yeah. Did your parents watch Star Wars, mate? Do they not think it kind of sounds a little bit similar? But anyway, and Nathan McAndrew towards the end, it can be a dangerous hitter. So, I am immensely happy with how everything's gone. I can't really see any chinks in the armour. Thomas Rue's come in and settled in like a duck to water. May not have, hit a massive 6. And ended up, what did he get? 17 out of 14 at that massive 6. So I took that brilliant catch at Chelsea, so he's kind of made his mark. He's probably going to make way now. You would have thought there's Banton will be back from England. His older brother will be back from captain the Lions, and Sean Dixon played today as well in the twos. I'm not sure what you can describe that twos performance as when the occasional off spin of George Bartlett managed to bag 3 for 27, I think it was.
He must have been landing them on the strip.
Well, yeah, there's that viral clip of that moon ball that he bowled. I assume he's worked on it a little bit since then, but yeah. Bart got was it 98 off 49 or something like that. So you can get that. He's a quality player, and it still frustrates me that he couldn't quite click down at Taunton. But 3 for 27.
He took his maiden professional wicket the other day as well, I think, George. So he did look like he was putting a little bit more energy on the ball, as the coaches say. So no, good on him.
Blossoming as an all-rounder up at Wantage Road. Lammers, I thought as well, continued just playing the way that he plays, all very looked like he had a bit more freedom. He seems to be a bit more relaxed at the crease. He's in championship games, he seems to sort of stand quite upright, quite tall. I noticed the 2 games three games. 2 games?
He played 2.
2 games, yeah. 2 games he's played. He just seems to be a little bit more sort of down and relaxed. I don't know whether that's because he wants to try and get under the ball a bit more in white ball cricket, but he's good, and he's probably going to miss out because we got 3 important games this week. Middlesex on Thursday, which you think we should be pretty much favourites to win, as Middlesex are normally down the bottom end of the table. It's terrible that Gloucester have had such a difficult start to this season's Blast campaign, defending our trophy. That's got off to a terrible start, but it's the West Country derby. Funny things can happen up at Bristol on a Friday night, and then as you say, the old Wanless derby, Somerset taking on Kent on Sunday. So what do we do?
3 games in 4 days. It's good that we've got options, isn't it? Actually, because I'm sure we'll come on to talk about the future fixture program and this sort of stuff. I don't think anyone thinks that 3 games in 4 days is a great idea.
Well, especially since you've had one game in, was it 10? Monday, go to Chelsea. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Hove, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. 10.
10, yeah.
And then you got, as you say, you got 3 and 4.
I think that the interesting thing around the you mentioned the batting. It's all the more impressive the start they've made, given the fact that there are 3 players in that team that there's 3 players that aren't in that team that will feel that they should be. In Dixon, Banton, and James Rue when they all become available / off international duty. So it's going to be fascinating to see how they play that in terms of Dixon probably holds the seniority in terms of, had he not been injured, probably would have started these games. But Lammy done so well at the top. Do they? Banton's obviously going to come back in, but there's so many different dynamics to that. You don't tend to rest batters in a Blast. Bowling is probably another question, because I think that what will be really interesting is how they select their bowlers for those 3 games in 4 days, because you probably would imagine that Meredith and Henry, for example, probably won't be able to play. I might be wrong, but history tells you that they probably won't play all 3 of those games. So
as far as the sort of the scheduling goes, you're probably never going to get 3 home games in a row. So to have Gloucester as your away game is probably going to fall as nicely as it can. So 4 overs on Thursday night, little sit on the bus Friday morning, 4 overs Friday night, day off Saturday, 4 overs Sunday afternoon. I mean, we're not talking climbing Everest here. I think it's potentially possible.
I guess it's the restrictions on where internet. It's not them making the calls all the time, is it?
Maybe you stick a sat on a coach to Durham for 6, 7, 8 hours. That would potentially throw a spanner in the works. But what's it, Bristol? 40 minutes?
On a Friday at the M5.
Well,
Who knows?
Yeah, on a Friday at the M5, yeah. Let's say 45 minutes. But
yeah,
would you then rest it against Middlesex then? On the basis that you want Gloucester and Kent are going to be the 2 stronger sides? And do it that way?
Well, Middlesex beat Essex at the weekend.
Everybody beats Essex. Everybody beats Essex.
Well, they do this season, don't they? But they've got Kane Williamson, who hasn't really come off yet, but will do it at some point. Eskenazi got a lot at the weekend, and they are famous. They are hopeless, Middlesex, at T20. I mean, historically, they are hopeless. If we put it into an AI generator, it would tell us that Somerset are going to win this no problem. But at some point, they can click. I don't think they're the worst team in the competition, and also we've had our fingers burnt a little bit before, where we've preemptively rested people, and it might be who knows, someone might pick up a niggle or a strain, run in to do some incredible bit in the field, and we could be resting. That would be a more constructive reason for rotating the team, wouldn't it? I think. But what do I know?
I think it also comes down to the types of pitches that they're likely to play on, and I think that the pitch at Gloucester, as we know, tends to, if they play on a pitch that they played like on the international the other day, then, but we all know that they won't, because that's the best chance of beating Somerset is to, throw Tom Smith the ball and Graham Van Buren, So, I think it may be dictated on horses for courses. Potentially Jack Leach comes in at Bristol, and that. Do you need Riley Meredith pounding in at 90 miles an hour on a pitch that's going to go no higher than hip height? I think that they'll likely, they may well make the decision that Jack Leach and Josh Davey may well be the better options. To have a look at. They don't if they don't want to have your bowling unit play every single game. So if anyone of them gets injured, you're playing players that haven't played across the whole tournament. So, yeah, for me, I think I would take a different bowling attack to Gloucester on Friday if Henry and Meredith are sort of under strategic instructions not to play back-to-back matches. And I would play Davy and Leach myself.
So, just dropped my pen. I was fiddling with it. Let me get that. There we are. Pen successfully retrieved. So that's the bowling then. Now there's going to be some disappointed lads in the batting unit.
Like Lammonby as a left-hander, and he has come off both times so far, and he's brilliant in the field. It's harsh on him if he drops out, but then I thought it was harsh he didn't play the first game. So
yeah, I mean this is a great problem to have. You've got Tom Banton coming back from playing for England. James Rew coming back from playing for England Lions off the back of that incredible knock he played at finals day, rescuing us from the proverbial against Surrey, and his partner in crime on that day, a man who absolutely loves finals day and has really made that number 5 position his own in T20 cricket, in Sean Dixon. Now, let's start with the easier one, Dixon coming in for Thomas Rew. Because I think Sean Dixon, through his performances over the years, has earned that 5 slot. It is his, as far as I'm concerned. 3 finals day games out of 4, he has excelled in that position and dug us out of holes that, we shouldn't have been dug out of, and was instrumental in winning us the 2023 Blast. So Thomas Rew's time will come. But I think Sean Dixon, if he's okay, I mean, he got 17 off 13, I think, in the second 11 game against Northants today. So you'd assume that he's fit to play. Whether he feels he needs another knock before he comes in is another question, but I think he comes back in as soon as he's available. So that's one down. And then you've got Banton and Rew then you've got Tom Banton and James Rew kind of both going for Tom Lammonby's slot.
Yeah, really, really tricky, isn't it?
I know it's.
there's some good players there.
Yeah, I mean,
I guess James,
either of those two would walk into any other side in the country.
I would say that James Rew probably takes slight seniority over his brother at this stage. I think that would be a fair comment. I mean, yeah, I think that there's obviously second 11 games as well that some of James and Tom Rew may have a few of those. Dixon may need a little bit of time to get his rhythm back. I don't know how fit he is. I know that it was a fairly serious finger injury as finger injuries go. So I think they won't want to rush Dixon back, particularly when they've got this sort of pecking order that has been delivering so successfully. So yeah, I mean, I think ultimately Banton and Dixon are the sort of the more senior options, and then Lammonby, is a really, really, really tough call because he can bat middle order. He can contribute really, really well in the field. Looked in a really good touch in T20 cricket a couple of years ago, and then maybe lost his rhythm a little bit. So basically, it's great to have options, isn't it?
Yeah, it's mad. I mean, if okay, so if Dixon isn't quite right for Thursday night, do you leave Thomas Rue in at 5? Or do you put James in at 5? Or do you stick Lammonby in at 5 and have Banton open? See, it's all, there's so many permutations that you can work through. It's crazy. I'm
The person that is solving a different problem, but the person who hasn't really come off yet is Lewis Goldsworthy. And Ben mentioned Leach, and I think if you added Leach to that bowling attack, which we've been up to now, that feels like it's even stronger, and we've got enough batters. Again, slightly harsh on Goldsworthy. I like him, and I like him being in the team, but there may be a sort of question mark there around the composition and the balance of the team. And what about Lammonby's bowling? He hasn't bowled in T20 yet, but that's another potential string to his bow.
He's definitely the best fielder. Lammonby is what
yeah,
there's
you'd
no
always
poor
want to see,
fielders these days, but Lammonby is genuinely an incredible patroller of a boundary, not just through catching ability, but saving twos. You know, genuinely a fabulous athlete. So yeah, I think that there is arguments to be made in any direction, and I think that whoever misses out is going to be really disappointed. That's from a club point of view, is an amazing place to be in. But there's a lot of cricket still to be played in this tournament, so a lot of opportunities.
One thing I would say is if you are going to bring people in, try and keep everybody's role defined. Don't all of a sudden keep Lamby as an opener and then put him at 5 and then put him like a 8 as a bowling all-rounder and then 6 or 7. Try and just, for that tournament, if you can do it with the personnel you've got, keep your top 3 specialists as Lammonby, Smeed, Banton, and maybe James Rue. Keep your middle order as the guys in your middle order. Keep your all-rounders as your all-rounders and don't keep shifting them around. Don't want to see Davey and Gregory opening.
Yeah, I found it quite striking watching some of the other games on the stream, how what a kind of mishmash of bowling changes quite a lot of captains come up with. And this sort of rather lazy commentary sort of says, oh, an imaginative captaincy as so-and-so comes on for one over and then this person comes on from one over. And part of our wicket taking ability seems to have been playing exactly to your point, Sheps, about knowing your role in the team and which overs you bowl and how you bowl them. And and so long as that doesn't become so predictable that people find a way of countering it. But for now, it does feel with our bowling that they do know their roles, and each time Gregory makes a bowling change, not that I know about this, but I do sort of feel like, oh yeah, of course, that is what you would do now.
I mean, we need to give credit to Lewis Gregory's captaincy as well, because you say it's about knowing which bowler to bowl at the right time and having the plans. I mean, classic example is Chelmsford. When Ben Green just started on slower balls, take pace off into the pitch, and like deer in headlights. So just went, oh, I can smash that. That's a shot. Oh no. Yeah, I should have done that, should I?
I think the
No,
interesting thing is that
Ben
they've
Green
got
is what he does. Don't try and hit it to the long. Oh, you've done that as well. Oh yeah. Oh.
they're clearly set up that they've got 6 bowlers, so it appears at the moment as if whoever's sort of they'll bowl Goldsworthy and Green, and whoever the wickets suiting or whoever's bowling better on the day will provide more of the option. At the moment, it's been that Goldsworthy's bowled the odd over. He's not really had to. He's not really been relied on as for a 4 over spell. And he's almost sort of being eased in. His time will come in this sort if he's not replaced by Leach is in that position, or Lammonby to fit an extra batter, and his time will come to bowl his 4 overs. There'll be venues like Gloucester and Cardiff, that will suit him much more. But I just think it's quite clever captaincy from Gregory at the moment. How he is sort of being managed in terms of he's being thrown his overs and it's not really working out. They've got Green's doing the job, but it's just having those 6 bowling options does allow you as a captain to sort of change it up and go a little bit more horses for courses, which I think is a really positive sign, and allowing Goldsworthy to get back into the team and settle back in.
Yeah, there's no worse feeling as a captain in the field looking around and thinking, oh my God, I haven't got a bowling option here. And there's no better feeling looking around and seeing 3 or 4 absolute gun bowlers that you can chuck the ball to. So, yeah, it's just all going so right. I mean, what can we moan about?
Peaking too early.
We're peaking too early. Come on. Look what Gloucester did. We should be following the form that Gloucester did. It'd be an absolute crap for the first 3 weeks of the tournament and then peaking on finals day. So, yeah, we're peaking too early. We're winning too easy.
It's a great opportunity, though, isn't it, over the next 3 games to, really sort of, that if they could win 2 of the next 3, you kind of already in the territory of eyeing up the knockout stages. So, I think that they'll be really keen to make full advantage of this start, and in all 3 cases, these games are winnable. So yeah, they've beaten some good sides in the first 3. Essex, I know, are bottom, but they will beat a lot of teams still. I think their batting is very strong. They got some wily old characters. So I think that if they will really target these next 3 games is get the groundwork done early and try and get yourselves well ahead of the pace, because they didn't quite manage that last year, did they? They were good, but the year before that was where they really went off like a tracer bullet and never looked back.
2023 as well is we won lots of games in different ways. We defended small totals, we chased big totals, we set big totals. Here at the moment, I kind of feel like throughout the tournament you want to get all sorts of all your bases covered in how you win games. And nothing can be done about the 3 games that we've done. It would be nice if we actually lost the toss and we had to defend a couple of these next 2 games rather than chasing, just so we can kind of remember how to do that. Because we win everything by 8, 9, 10 wickets in the group stage, and all of a sudden we've got 3 knockout games and we have to defend. And we haven't defended yet this season. This is a bit different. So just that, and I'll be happy. Let's start defending some totals, big ones, small ones.
Let's beat Kent.
Yeah, we'll beat Kent first, beat Gloucester and beat Middlesex. I mean, you think win 2 out of those 3 games is a good weekend. Win all 3 and it's an absolutely brilliant one.
Kent look dangerous. I think they had a very impressive win over Hampshire the other day, and you look at their batting lineup and they've got some players there. So yeah, I think the Kent game could be our biggest test yet, I think.
Yeah, we lost to Canterbury last year when Billings went a bit wild, and Crawley did it on Sunday. Yeah, Miei is a good player, I think, dangerous player. Not so sure about their bowling though.
No, I think that if they rocked up at Taunton, and you'd back a high scoring game there. So yeah.
Okay, shall we move on to listeners' questions? Got a bit of discussion time. Oh, let's just quickly, touch on Somerset Women. 1 rain off up at Treadbridge against the Blaze, and coming off a lot, preceded by a loss to Birmingham Bears. Are they called Birmingham Bears, the women, as well?
Bears now.
Just the Bears.
Just the Bears. On Friday, a bit of a similar story, really, to the loss against Essex. Just, I think they just need to have that now, so how to score 12 and over with 6 twos. like Tom Abel can do, just absolutely find that pinpoint, precise spot between those two fielders, bisect them with a little dink and run hard. Because sometimes the boundary option is not going to be there. So, again, just boxing a bit more clever in a chase. They were doing all right till, was it Laura Harris? Smashed about 70 odd in about 30 balls.
Not having a lot go their way at the moment. The
No,
Somerset.
they've got another injury, haven't they?
Poor old Emma Corney, yeah, went over in the outfield, and it was a very nasty looking fall. She's just having some scans, but it really doesn't look good that for poor old Emma Corney, who'd made a tidy start to the season,
Yes, yeah, she had. I was impressed.
and I think that it, I think it knocked the stuffing out of them a little bit, and yeah, they really struggled. Warwickshire, what the Bears, as we should call it, are a good side. So yeah, it was going to be an almost impossible task, I think, with your opening bat down to chase what they had to chase. But obviously off the mark with the washout on Saturday. But yeah, they're desperate to get a win on the board in the T20s, and they play on Friday against Lancashire Thunder.
Yes, that is a standalone game at the Cooper Associates County Ground. If you can't make it up to Bristol, do roll along, do a job for you, Ben. Tickets are just £5 and includes the #1 Taylor Swift tribute act that was available at a reasonable price on that Friday night. Forever Swift.
Well, it's going to be a really interesting occasion because we've sold about 2,000 tickets and we've got 1,000 eligible members. So it is on track. The ECB tell me to be the highest attended standalone women's game of any of the Tier 1 clubs this season. So yeah, it's going to be a really obviously quite different crowd because I'm sure a lot of the hardcore men's Blast fans will be either at Bristol or watching it on Sky. So yeah, it's going to be a really interesting evening on Friday night here at Taunton. So yeah, if you're not watching at Bristol or watching the blokes on Sky, then yeah, come on down and support. It's going to be a really interesting evening.
Yeah, if you're stuck in meetings till 5:30 on Friday, get yourself down to the Cooper Associates County Ground. It should be a great night. Well, it will be a great night. I'm going to stake my reputation on it. And if there was ever a crowd that could sell out the women's game or set that record, I would put money on it being us. We love our cricket. We love our cricket down in Taunton, men's and women's. Speaking of women's cricket, it was for the second year in a running a bit of a washout. Not a full washout, but certainly disappointing for Lightning to strike twice, probably literally, given the storms that were had both last year and in this year's game against the West Indies. But Ben, from a logistical point of view, everything go okay? Everybody satisfied?
Yeah, it was what a shame, wasn't it, really, that it was another. I think they would have had it washed out completely. It would have really sort of damp squib to kind of have two back-to-back washouts to sort of go again after that and try and get a full house next year. But yeah, the atmosphere was really good actually when the players got back on at 5 o'clock. A lot of people had stuck around either in town or staying in the ground. So yeah, there was a really good atmosphere actually when the players got back out, and everything went really quite smoothly from a logistical point of view. The ECB Sky were all happy, but yeah, it was just such a shame that so much build up, so much work that goes into those games. Like there's a huge amount of logistical operation goes into the ground to turn it into an international venue now. That it unfortunately it was a much shortened game, but a game nonetheless.
Well done, everybody at Taunton, especially the diehards who didn't make it back until 4 o'clock the same morning and were blearily napping in wherever. Well, I suppose you have to give up the Ben Warren suite up to Sky, don't you? So I won't ask you where you found a quiet corner to have a nap, but I'm sure it was fairly.
Certain Sky Sports commentators, I won't name them, but they were stealing our drinks from our fridge. So
Were they?
I won't name them, but
this is the little beer fridge you've got to reward the team with a post match Thatchers or Fosters or whatever, and No, just helping themselves with it. Well, when you Billy Big Bollocks like Sky, Charlie Dagnall can have as many drinks as he wants. I'm just saying Dagnall. I don't know. Is he there? He seems to be there for all the women's games, and he seems like the most likely culprit. Oh, allegedly. I'm not suggesting that Charlie Dagnall is some sort of cider thief. Right. Any more news Somerset-wise before we get back on to kind of quite good, actually, listeners' questions? Good
No, I
stuff.
don't think so. I mean, it's related to the questions, I'm sure, and you've mentioned it already. But it is the AGM tomorrow, and if people are listening to it before 7 o'clock on Wednesday the 11th, it would be great to see you and to come down, because it's a good opportunity to ask questions and hear from the kind of top brass of the club, both on and off the pitch. And I think it should be a really kind of interesting and engaging session. So for people who say, well, what's the club up to and what does it think about this, that, and the other, and what they're going to do, we'll have a go now and say what we think. But it's a really kind of timely, I think, moment when there are these big questions swirling around the game to get engaged and understand how your club works and how you can be involved in helping and supporting it. So that's the other thing that's been occupying quite a lot of the club's mind in the last sort of fortnight to 3 weeks, and it all kind of culminates in the formal business, and then, as I say, some extended question and answer sessions tomorrow evening in the Colin Atkinson.
If you can't make it, it will be streamed live on YouTube. I don't think you can just search for it, but if you are a member, I think if you're an eligible member, as in you could vote, you should have had an email today with the link. And so, would you please give my apologies, Mr. President, as I don't believe I'll be able to attend tomorrow, but I will
do that.
I will definitely be at the Cooper Associates County Ground on Thursday for the Middlesex game. So, Rob Reed has popped in a question. One for Peter. Michael Barber has talked about making the club an exemplar of social mobility in the Southwest. In a recent championship match, 9 of 11 players were privately educated. When will we see any real changes? I will just preface that by saying, doesn't necessarily mean those 9 players are coming from wealthy families. Quite a few of those would have gone on cricket scholarships. So it's not as cut and dried as it does appear, but this isn't something that's going to happen overnight, is it?
It's not, but it's a high priority for the club, and it's a high personal priority for Michael. And as well as being the chair of Somerset, he's also the Chancellor at Exeter University, and Exeter University has the nation's kind of strongest social mobility function. So this, as you say, it requires thinking about the pathways into cricket at every stage of the game, so that everyone gets a fair kind of crack of the whip and an opportunity to exploit their talent, which isn't straightforward when there are far fewer cricket pitches and facilities available to kids in state schools than there are in private schools. So there's something about working with and through, and we're fortunate in our region to have such a proliferation of cricket clubs of one kind or another, to create connections and opportunities and pathways for kids who from all schools and walks of life to get into the game associated with those clubs, and to connect the state schools up with the magic and excitement of the game in the way that the club is doing through schools days, and getting lots of young people, through the gates and excited about seeing the stars which we've got in our region. You hear interesting stories about kids who can't afford the kit, or they get the kit and they get invited to, they've got the talent and they come along to one of these sessions, and it's kind of apparent fairly early on that some of the other children from the independent schools already know the coaches because the coaches are their teachers in their schools. And none of this is sort of deliberate, but it's quite easy to sort of create a sense that there's something for some people which is harder for others to break into and break through on. So a really kind of fundamental and careful look at the pathways and the encouragement and the incentives. Some of it is about money, some of it is about facilities, some of it is about culture and attitude of mind. And as I say, I think Michael really kind of leads on this from the top and is passionate about it and interested in hearing both about, you know, opportunities, about people who are doing this well, about experiences that intentionally or unintentionally are standing in the way of people having a go. And at the pinnacle of this is getting access to as many potential players as possible to be the county and international stars of the future. But there's also a kind of broader point about participation and helping as many young people as possible see that it's fun to get involved with cricket.
I mean, it can sometimes sound like an excuse to say, well, it's going to take time, but the nature of this is, you know, getting 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds involved in cricket and then waiting for them to become professional players. If your plan comes off, it's going to take 10 years at least, this sort of program. So,
yeah, and we have gone backwards, I think, as a country in this space. So we're fighting against the odds and rebuilding stuff as well. So that doesn't make it any easier.
Well, I hope that's answers your question, Rob. I mean, Michael Barber is a guy who gets things done. I've no doubt about that. I mean, if you don't know about the political career of our current chairman, just have a little Google, because he was basically number 2 to Tony Blair for the best part of his premiership. So yes, he is certainly a very capable individual, and as you say, Peter, I think he's definitely the man for the job. And if he gets the bit between his teeth on this one,
subject, of course, to the voting of the members, because he's also up for re-election.
Yes, I mean, you are president now for possibly only another 23 hours and 17 minutes, as we sit here at the minute. But
and the clock's ticking on Michael as well, because he's up for another 3 years. Subject to the membership. So fingers crossed that we'll get another 3 years of Michael, because I think he's a huge asset, and he's one of these people. You know, he's quietly spoken, but as you say, he's extremely well connected, and when he says something, people listen, and it's just really helpful to the club to have someone like that around these top tables when there's some really high stakes issues to be discussed and decided upon.
Yeah, without a doubt. Great question, Rob. One that definitely requires well, what should we say? It's certainly very important, and I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. Right, our old mate Andy Cleve wants to discuss the future of the English domestic cricket schedule. If you were able to get behind George Dobell's paywall today, there were some interesting proposals that he believes are the way forward, currently being discussed by clubs. I think I've deleted it. I'm just going to find it again. What did we think of those then? We've all had a bit of a read. Just briefly, so one is to do what we did in 2021, have those 3 random groups of 6 that then go into the top 2 then go into another league in September, winners of the county championship. Not sure like that. I think you need to earn and keep your Division 1 status, but it does give every team a chance of winning it. So if you are a Division 2 club and you think, oh, maybe do we want to spend money on an overseas red ball player, this might just give you the incentive to do it, and then maybe get a bit more interested in your club locally. Slightly weirder one is, I'm going to read this verbatim. Another option favoured by a significant number of counties. I'm just looking at Pete to see if I can get a read on him on this one. because you inferred in your email that there's some things that you can discuss and some things that you can't. So,
Well, I'll tell you what I think. Read out the three options, and then I'll tell you.
right. Well, Bob Willis Trophy number one. Another option favoured by a significant number of counties features 2 groups of 6. Now, this is the bit I don't quite get. Counties will play all the teams in the other group, home and away. So that means 12 games, and then you have semis and a final. The remaining 6 teams would play each other, but mitigating concerns they could be left behind. 2 could be promoted each year, and this option could involve playoffs against the bottom clubs from the other 2 groups.
Yeah.
And the final option retains the 2-divisional structure, basically the status quo, but playing less games. And then it's how do you balance Division 1 and Division 2? And if you've got a Division 1 of 10 teams playing 12 games, isn't ideal, I don't think.
So my immediate remark is, and Jamie Cox is on the record for the club on this matter, is just to step back and say what is the problem we're seeking to solve or resolve here. And I think we have touched in this call on some problems with the fixtures. Some of the fixtures are too congested. And Jamie's on record as saying that, and that is a problem for the players, and it's a problem for the supporters. We are also, I think, lots of us as members, disappointed at the way in which the county championship is pushed to the margins of the season, and there's so little of what we regard as the highest quality, most important tournament taking place in the proper summer. And again, Jamie has said it doesn't feel right that by the end of May we've played half the county championship. So Somerset's position to this point has been the problem which we're seeking to solve is that the current fixture list isn't sustainable. It doesn't work for supporters. It doesn't work for players, and whether or not it works for Team England or not, they can judge that. So we would hope and expect to see some proposals which didn't necessarily reduce the amount of cricket, but spread it out in a way that worked better for the supporter experience, value for money for members, and player welfare. Now, I can't, nothing has yet been circulated to the counties with a set of options responding to the steers which the counties, including Somerset, have put into that debate. But we are expecting something in the very near future. And George Dobell is kind of well connected, I guess, isn't he? So this looks and feels like a leak, but it's impossible to kind of comment on it because it's a leak. What we can say are those principles which I've laid out, and Jamie is on the record as describing as Somerset's position in this debate. So what will happen in the very near future is that something will come round. There's a group of counties that have been looking and thinking about this. The ECB have slightly sort of contracted it out to the counties and say, well, you think this is important, you tell us what you want. And that has some advantages in that we're well engaged with it, but it also has some disadvantages in that we are susceptible to what the others might want and think from this process, and what we think may not be what suits some of the kind of bigger, richer counties that when they look at all the cricket they've got at their disposal, they've got the 100 stuff to kind of factor into it as well, and looks different to some of the, to be frank, cash-strapped counties for whom playing cricket is a loss-making activity, as opposed to, for us, is a money-making activity, which we can then invest back into cricket. So we're not going to have a veto on all of this. We're going to have a kind of voice, and the voice which we've been expressing up to this point is what I've described to you, and I think something that our members would be kind of comfortable with. But it's gonna get difficult, I think, based on what you've just read out to us, because those options you've read out to us don't sound like they're asking the question, how do we spread the cricket out to work best for supporters and for players? They sounded a little bit more like, how can we play less cricket?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, just going back to what you said about the funny way that the last fixture at home has fallen, and then we got three games in 4 days. I said that's kind of an easy 3 games in 4 days in terms of travel, and they have just had sort of 1 game in 9, or 1 game in 10 days. I mean, if I'm playing cricket for a living and I got to play 3 20-over games, I'd rather play them over a weekend, Thursday, Friday, Sunday.
I think that's quite fortunate, though. You look at some of the other travel distances. Look at all the fixtures that are taking place over the next.
So you could potentially play 2 home games, and then say Glamorgan, or I mean that's sort of the 2 nearest ones, isn't it? Hampshire's probably a wee bit further away than Cardiff. But if it's managed, if you could do a mini tour and do, Sussex, Hampshire, and Surrey, let's say, do those 3 away games in 4 days, and then you got the rest of the week off, maybe a week before you play another sort of few games like that. I mean, is that better, or is it better to play Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, or Tuesday, Friday, Sunday?
It's really difficult now when you add in women's cricket, into like factor in double headers into all this, and I just think creating the fixture list it's more complex than asking teams to do tours of regions of the country to sort of minimize travel, because particularly as we currently sit today, the tier 1 model is different to the north-south model in the Blast, so that Somerset play in Blackpool a T20 in the women's game, go all the way up to Blackpool to play a T20. That doesn't happen in the men's game, because it's the furthest you can travel is, for us, sort of Chelmsford or Canterbury. So I just think that there's just so much, and we have to factor in the women's game into this now. This, we are, we're use the adage 1 club, 2 teams, but this isn't just about men's cricket, because the amount of cricket being played is just as much on the surfaces as it is for the supporters. We have to make sure that we can produce wickets that is fit for purpose across a summer. And if we're playing men's and women's professional cricket, and we only do that on mainly 1 ground, then it's not just about travel. It's not just about supporters. It's not just about the players. It's also about pitches and the commercial side of it as well. For us, purely from a commercial point of view, playing Thursday, Sunday, Thursday is a fairly horrendous model in terms of trying to drive sellouts and commercial inventory. Having 3 home Blast games in a week, 2 of which on a Thursday, is costing the club sellout revenue. So there's just so many factors involved in this, and so many stakeholders involved, that I think, like Peter said, we all have we'll have a voice, and Somerset will have a voice, and fans will have a voice, but there's no perfect solution to this. Otherwise we'd have been playing it for the last 5 years.
I was a bit worried and concerned that at both Essex on the Sunday afternoon and Sussex on the Friday night, they were disappointed with their crowds. And we've done an amazing job to sell out the Surrey doubleheader and the Kent doubleheader. But as you said, Ben, it's a hell of a lot of work to sell the tickets. And yeah, we are getting great crowds, but not everyone is getting great crowds. Now, I don't want to be fatalistic about that, and I kind of feel like some of this, the ECB and the game has kind of brought upon itself by not organising and marketing the Blast as effectively as it could have done, because it's put so much time and effort into the 100, and now it's realised it's got these other jewels or assets that it wants to make the most of, and is kind of catching up a bit. But this is why we're one voice, and some people who ought to be our allies in all of this, like the Essexes and the Sussexes of this world, if they start thinking, oh well, actually maybe if we had fewer games and we could sell them all out, that would be better. It makes our case for retaining the same amount of cricket, other things being equal, a bit harder than would otherwise be the case. But our formal position at the moment is we want the same amount of cricket we've got at the moment, but we want it to be choreographed much better for the benefits of the players, the fans, and as Ben says, the commercial officers and the people who prepare the pitches.
I think one thing that was mentioned in the article was PCA concerns about safeguarding. Now, as far as I'm aware, players get rested when they're in whatever kind of red zone or whatever that the backroom staff have deemed that they're in. We're shipping off players left, right, and centre. We've got also championship players now who are playing a little bit of second 11 cricket who aren't involved in the blast. So I think the safeguarding concern could be not necessarily written off, but it's certainly shifted onto the coaches and the management and the backroom staff of the individual clubs. Because if we're sending players out on loan, then they clearly need cricket, as we're being told on one side. But then if there's too much cricket, I don't see how the two kind of can coexist. Either there's too much cricket and you need to be resting players, in which case don't send them out on loan, or there's not enough cricket, in which case you need to be sending all these players out on loan.
I would add to that, and this is the kind of cynical bit of my brain, that you hollow out your domestic competitions only to create space for a whole load more franchise leagues in which players can earn money playing just as much, if not more, than they were doing before. So I think the line that the ECB have taken about creating a kind of sort of quality threshold for release to other tournaments is quite helpful in this space. So there's the bit of me that thinks this may be overdone, but at the same time, when you hear Ben talking about you coming back at 4 o'clock in the morning, I know our players weren't playing the next day, but that's no way to live your life. And you look at the fixtures, and there are teams that are playing on one side of the country and then they're playing on the other side of the country the next day, and we have got this other issue about the county championship being pushed to the extremities of the season. So, what are we willing to kind of contemplate or consider around more of that tournament being played in the summer? And that raises a whole load of other kind of questions, doesn't it? If you start putting that up against the 100, but maybe that is more tolerable than what we've got at the moment. I don't know.
It's a commercial reality that one-day cricket makes more money for clubs than championship cricket. So it makes sense for that to be played in the summer, and championship cricket to not be.
But Pete makes a great point in terms of the fact the costs of hosting cricket matches have risen exponentially over the last decade, and to Pete's point, for clubs that aren't selling out games, if they can have 5 games that sell out, and then they don't incur the costs of 7 games, those are quite huge savings that clubs may make. Hosting cricket is expensive. There's lots of costs involved now that weren't there before, rising costs, all sorts of things. So it's I think the game is having to become more efficient. That's what I think that it's going to have to boil down to, is the game's got to be more efficient, and what that looks like is it's going to be really interesting. But
It's depressing. It's depressing, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
we're a cricket club. We're here to play cricket. We want to play cricket. We want to make as much money as we can in order to invest that money back in the cricket, whether it's numbers of games or higher quality games and all the rest of it. But yeah, there's definitely this kind of tendency or mindset of some people that all we need to do is shrink to success, and it is a very slippery slope because you start going down that route and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Yeah,
we're very lucky. We are
we
very,
are.
very lucky with the fan base we get. To back to that Sussex game they had. That was a Friday night game. The weather was good and it was a good crowd, but nowhere near a sellout. Years gone by, that game would have been sold out.
Well,
Particularly pre-COVID.
I tell you what, last year I heard a lot of radio advertising for the Blast, and I saw a lot of social media insert advertising for the Blast as well. This year, I don't think I've seen anything or heard anything. And I remember distinctly last year, I sort of heard it was like whatever it's like, see the world's best players, blah, blah. I thought, oh, this is a bloody advert for the 100. And then the smile on my face when it turned out to be an advert for the Blast was. It was a huge smile on my face. And so I kind of, every time it came on, it sort of really twigged with me. Heard it quite a lot. But this year, zero.
I think that's fair, and I think that, and just don't want to make them blush, but the effort which their team put into promoting and mobilizing interest in the Blast is extraordinary. I don't see or feel any of that where I live here at all. And there are factors to that. That's to do with kind of focus and determination and the importance of cricket relative to other sports in the West Country and all the rest of it. But you're absolutely right, Sheps. There doesn't feel like there's a kind of national effort and determination behind this, and I think some of the clubs are rather half-hearted about their attempts to promote it. And it's back to this, if it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you worry all the time about there's too much cricket, then you reduce the amount of cricket, and that's back to the sort of what's the problem we're seeking to solve here.
Well, I won't dive too deep into sort of Blast marketing strategies from the ECB, but there has been a distinct shift this year. That they are there is a lot more onus on the counties themselves to promote their own Blast games. Without diving too deep, but there's funds that were allocated to each county from the ECB that the ECB would spend on behalf of each county, whereas now a lot of that money is distributed to us to spend on our own Blast campaigns. So people may well they're sort of losing the sort of talk sport advertising, the sort of ESPN Quick Info takeovers, the cinema advertising that they used to do quite a lot of buses. They used to do a lot of buses previously, but sort of relinquishing a lot of the advertising of the tournament and focusing more in on the counties advertising the individual games themselves through their own platforms. So, yeah.
There's some sense in that, actually, isn't there?
Some
If you want to
oranges
sell
and
tickets
eggs.
and get real people into the grounds, but you've got to do it well.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side of that, Peter, just playing devil's advocate, if you take away that sort of national awareness campaign and you kind of localize it, all of a sudden, if you're in, I'm trying to think of a minor county now. But you know what I mean?
Cambridgeshire.
If you're not aware of the Blast, you won't follow it online. You won't see it on TV and want to watch it. You won't. It's just not there. So if that marketing's not there, that constant drip of this competition exists and it's brilliant, then it's just going to die a death. I mean, I think probably one of the final nails in the coffin was they were talking about this rebirth of the T20 Champions League, and it's going to be the winners 100 rather than the winners of the Blast, which can get in the bin straight away.
We were just packing our bags until we got down the. We saw the headline in the office. Thought, right, where are we off to when we win the Blast? And you get farther down that time. Well, actually, we might have to watch it on telly instead.
Well, and the thing about that as well is the 100 sides are potentially going to be made out of probably going to have 6 or 7, franchise regulars on the franchise carousel. So which bloody team are they going to play for? At least when it's Somerset, that we're pretty much going to have our first 11, barring, maybe Matt Henry or whoever. But it's
so
just
another of Jamie's principles, which again they are on the record, is that solutions need to work for the 18 counties. And I've heard this is where I have heard my friends at places like Essex and Kent and Sussex say exactly that as well. So I have more confidence about our ability to line up with others around ideas like 100 franchises should play in some kind of international tournament than I do with some of these questions about whether there should be 12 or 14 blast games, where I say I'm a bit more kind of concerned about what that looks like in some of the other parts of the country. But all of this is kind of supposition and based on slightly drunken conversations over the vol-au-vents.
Actually,
I don't think I've ever had a vol-au-vent.
I've got a great title for this week's podcast, and it's going to be Drunken Conversations over the vol-au-vents. There we are. I was getting worried, actually. There wasn't anything that was suitably sort of catchy, but we got there in the end. In true Tom Kohler Cadmore style, you plucked that one out of the air, and I got the trophy. Right. I'm sort of keeping an eye on Crick Info, see what Tom Banton's doing tonight, and it looks like he's going to have a TFC. Because England are 234 for 3 with 7 balls to go with Banton in next. Bethel and Etal are smacking it everywhere. So I was about to I did want to have an hour-long whinge about why you're picking one of the most consistent opening bats in the history of the Blast and batting him at 6. But anyway, that is definitely a conversation for another time.
Especially when we play him at 6 on Thursday.
Well, I was talking about roles again. Why is he down at 6? Anyway, right. Do we have any other business before we knock this on the head? We've already gone 8 minutes over time, so people are going to be a little bit annoyed with us, but I expect we'll be forgiven and they'll tune back in next week.
No. See some people at the AGM tomorrow.
Yeah, I will be looking forward to watching it on the stream. Oh, I tell you what I have done. This may or may not draw your wrath, Ben, but I was just looking at some crap on AliExpress.com today, and I put in Somerset shirts, and I have ordered 4 knockoff Somerset shirts. So all 4 of our shirts this season for the princely price of, I think, £27. So I genuinely want to see what these look like for 27 quid. I'm not holding much hope on the quality, but as you can see before me, or behind me rather, I do purchase regular shirts to help bolster the coffers of the club. So hopefully yourself and Mr. Bryce won't come down on me too hard when I bring them in when they eventually arrive. But looking forward to that. That's it, I think. We're all done.
Great. Thanks,
Very good.
Good stuff. Have an enjoyable AGM tomorrow night. And I'll see you on
Thursday.
Yeah. See you tomorrow, Pete.
Bye.
Yeah, cheers. Bye then.
Cheers. Bye.